You feel it, don't you? That knot in your stomach when you turn on the news. The quickening pulse when a notification pops up on your phone. Carjackings, robberies, another senseless tragedy. A constant drumbeat of danger that leaves you feeling anxious and on edge. And you're not alone in this. That feeling is an epidemic. A recent Gallup poll revealed that a staggering 77% of us believe crime is getting worse, the highest that number has been in decades. The fear is real. But what if I told you that you've been sold a story? A terrifying story. That isn't true. What if, while we've all been nervously looking over our shoulders, something truly historic has been happening right under our noses? A record-breaking drop in almost every single category of crime. What if the official data, the numbers from thousands of police departments, don't just contradict our fears, but paint a picture of a nation that is rapidly becoming safer? So safe, in fact, that the United States is experiencing some of its lowest crime rates in over half a century. No, this isn't a conspiracy theory or some political spin. This is the official story, written in the cold, hard data. So the greatest mystery in America today isn't a crime wave. The real mystery is, why is there a Grand Canyon-sized gap between the truth and what we're all made to feel? Today, we investigate the shocking crime drop that nobody is talking about and uncover the powerful forces that are shaping your perception of danger. Let's find out what's really going on. The anatomy of fear. Before we crack open the case files and look at the numbers, we have to understand the scene of the crime, our own fear. Because for millions, this isn't just a headline. It's a feeling they live with every day. It's the new Ring camera on your neighbor's door, the toothpaste locked up at the pharmacy, and the constant buzz of alerts from news and neighborhood apps on your phone. And the evidence for this fear is overwhelming. For decades, pollsters have been taking the nation's temperature, and the results are chilling. In 23 of the last 27 Gallup surveys, going all the way back to 1993, a majority of Americans believed crime was getting worse, even when, for most of that time, it was actually plummeting. In 2023, 63% of Americans called the crime problem extremely or very serious, a record high for that poll. So, who or what is the culprit? A huge piece of the puzzle is hiding in plain sight. The screen you're looking at right now. You know the old newsroom saying, "If it bleeds, it leads"? The internet gave that saying a triple shot of espresso. The business model for news and social media is built on engagement, and nothing grabs our attention like fear and outrage. A story about new park benches doesn't get clicks. A grainy video of a carjacking? It can go viral in minutes and be seen by millions. It's a perfect storm that creates a funhouse mirror version of the world. A single, shocking crime in one city gets blasted out by national news and social media algorithms until it feels like it's happening on your street right now. Local crime becomes national news. An isolated incident gets framed as a terrifying trend. Our brains aren't built to distinguish a threat on a screen from a threat that is statistically likely to happen to us. This gets supercharged by neighborhood apps like Nextdoor or Citizen, which deliver a constant fire hose of suspicious activity reports directly to our phones. Every stolen package, every strange car on the street, becomes another piece of evidence confirming our deepest fears, creating a sense of constant threat even as major crimes plummet. And then There's the way our own minds can be turned into witnesses against the truth. There's a psychological flaw wired into all of us called the availability heuristic. It's a simple, dangerous shortcut. Our brains decide how likely something is based on how easily we can remember an example of it. Since we're bombarded with vivid, emotional videos of crime, our minds naturally conclude that crime must be rampant. The calm, boring, statistical fact that you are overwhelmingly likely to not be a victim of a violent crime today just can't compete with the dramatic footage of the one person who was. It's a mental shortcut our media environment hijacks every single day. That's the anatomy of our fear. It's powerful, it's persistent, and it's fueled by technology and money. But now, let's turn from the feeling to the facts. The official story, a historic plunge. If you believe the story you're being told every day, America is drowning in a historic crime wave. But the official record, the data compiled by the FBI from over 16,000 police departments, tells a story so different, it's shocking. A story of a nation getting safer, faster than almost anyone realizes. This isn't just a one-year blip. It's part of what criminologists call the Great Crime Decline that began back in the 1990s. For over 30 years, crime has been on a long, downward slide. But in the last couple of years, that slide has turned into a free fall. And the latest chapters of this story from 2024 are absolutely stunning. They show overall violent crime fell by about 4.5% from the previous year. But the details are where the story gets really wild. Let's start with the crime we all fear the most: murder. The national murder rate didn't just dip in 2024. It plummeted by a jaw-dropping 14.9%. That is one of the largest one-year drops ever recorded. This isn't just erasing the spike we saw during the pandemic. It's a collapse. In 2024, a murder happened on average every 31.1 minutes, a major improvement. And this isn't an old story. The plot continues into this year. Preliminary data for the first half of 2025 shows homicides in major cities are down another 17% from 2024. Some experts believe 2025 could go down in history as the year with the lowest murder rate ever recorded in the United States. And it's not just murders. Every single category of violent crime the FBI tracks went down. Robberies fell by nearly 9%. Reported rapes dropped by over 5%. Aggravated assaults also decreased. Put it all together, and the data shows the U.S. violent crime rate in 2024 was one of the lowest recorded since the 1960s. Let that sink in. The story is just as dramatic with property crime. This category, which includes burglary and theft, also fell by 8.1% in 2024. The property crime rate is now flirting with its lowest point since 1961. Now, every good mystery has a red herring, and in this story, it was car thefts. You heard all about it. Between 2019 and 2023, motor vehicle theft did shoot up, fueled by organized crime and viral videos showing how to steal certain cars. It was a real, serious problem. And it's a perfect example of how one single spike can make it feel like the entire world is on fire. But even that fire has been put out. The latest data shows car thefts fell by a staggering 18.6% in 2024. And in the first half of 2025, they're down another 25% on top of that. The outlier is no longer an outlier. Remember, these aren't just numbers. Every percentage point is a family that didn't get a tragic phone call, a person who didn't have to recover from a traumatic assault, an American who didn't have to deal with the violation of being robbed. The data is clear. America is experiencing a broad, deep, and historically significant drop in crime. Which brings us back to the central mystery. If we're so much safer, why do we feel so much more afraid? Section 3. Decoding the disconnect. So why? Why this Grand Canyon of a disconnect between the facts and our fears? It's not an accident. It's the result of a perfect storm, and we can name the culprits. First, you have the media's magnifying glass. The 24/7 news cycle is a machine with an endless hunger for content, and crime stories are its favorite fuel. They're dramatic, emotional, and cheap to cover. One high-profile crime, like the smash and grab robberies a few years ago, can dominate the news for days, creating a narrative that organized gangs were looting stores everywhere, even as data on overall property crime was heading down. The story became more powerful than the statistics. The next culprit is social media, which pours gasoline on that fire. On platforms like TikTok or X, the most shocking video wins. A single clip of a shoplifting incident in San Francisco can get more views than the entire population of Texas. The algorithm doesn't care about context or how rare the event is. It just cares that you can't look away. This creates what some call anecdotes that we stitch together into a terrifying picture of societal collapse, even if the pieces don't represent reality. And the third, and perhaps most powerful, suspect is the political megaphone. For decades, fear of crime has been a politician's most reliable weapon. It's the easiest way to attack an opponent as soft on crime and promise a return to law and order. We hear constant claims about skyrocketing violence in out-of-control cities, often in direct contradiction to local and national data. For instance, political rhetoric often targets cities like New York or DC, even as FBI data showed that large cities saw some of the biggest murder declines. When these claims are amplified 24/7 by partisan media, they create a political reality that can completely overwrite the statistical one. Finally, there's a quieter factor: the death of local news. A generation ago, most people got their news from a local paper. That paper had reporters who understood the local context, reported on crime going down as well as up, and could explain the nuances. As local newspapers have vanished, that context has vanished with them. We've lost our interpreters, leaving us adrift in a sea of sensational headlines and viral videos. The nuance. It's not a monolith. Okay, let's pause the investigation for a moment, because this part is crucial. The point of this story isn't to tell you that your fear is fake, or to dismiss what you've seen with your own eyes. If you or someone you love has been a victim of crime, the national statistics don't make that trauma go away. Your fear is valid. The goal here is to add context, not to claim that crime has vanished. The truth is, a national crime story is never one single story. It's an average of thousands of different tales, and things can look very different depending on what block you live on. First, the location of the story always matters. A national drop in homicides is fantastic news, but it doesn't mean every single city is safer. While cities like Baltimore and Detroit have seen stunning, double-digit drops, bringing them to levels not seen in years, Other cities haven't seen that same progress. In fact, even with recent drops, a majority of cities studied by the Council on Criminal Justice still had homicide rates higher than before the pandemic. A person living in a neighborhood struggling with violence is having a very different experience than the one the national data shows. Second, the type of crime matters. As we said, the surge in car thefts was a real and scary trend for a lot of people. If your car was stolen, hearing that aggravated assaults are down nationally doesn't help much. Our personal sense of safety is often shaped by the crimes most visible in our own communities. We also have to remember the dark chapter that just ended. The years 2020 and 2021 saw a real and terrifying spike in homicides. That broke a long and steady downward trend, and the memory of that violence is still fresh in our minds. It's like we're all living in the shadow of that peak, even as the data shows we've moved miles away from it. Finally, less frequent doesn't always mean less severe. A single, horrific mass shooting or a brutal attack can have a massive impact on the national psyche, creating a sense of dread that can overshadow months of positive statistics. An honest conversation has to acknowledge these details. The data reveals a powerful and positive national story, but it doesn't erase the complex and sometimes painful realities on the ground. Conclusion. So, at the end of our investigation, we're left with two conflicting stories. The first is the story we feel, a story of anxiety and danger, whispered to us every day by our screens. The second is the story the evidence tells us, a story of a historic, widespread, and rapid drop in crime that has made America, by the numbers, safer than it has been for generations. The real crime, then, might be the gap between those two stories. Because when a whole country acts out of fear instead of fact, we risk making bad decisions. We chase policies that don't work, we deepen the divisions between us, and we lose faith in one another. Understanding the difference between perception and reality is key. It allows us to tackle the real crime problems that do exist, while also celebrating the incredible progress we've made. The story of crime in America isn't the simple, terrifying tale we're so often told. It's far more complex and, ultimately, far more hopeful. But look, this national story is made up of millions of local ones. The data tells one tale, but the view from your front door might tell another. So we need to hear your story. Do these numbers surprise you? What does crime look like where you live? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this investigation valuable and want more deep dives that get behind the headlines, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching.